Hello, I'm Eric Snodgrass, and I want to thank you for watching today's Ag Forecast, brought to you by Nutrien Ag Solutions, your premier platform for real-time global insights. I want to take you back to a map I showed you yesterday in the long-range update. It's the total number of severe weather reports we've had since the middle of the month of May. We just added to this map an additional 350 reports, including 27 more tornadoes, which brings 2019's number up to 987 tornadoes. That makes it the third most active tornado season we have in the last decade. Only 2011 and 2008 beat this year. And you can see spread across the midsection of the country, getting over to the East Coast, we have had a lot of severe weather. I want to thank Chad for sending me this picture. This is hail. That is hail piled up in the street here just outside of parts of Omaha, Nebraska here. Incredible to see that. Kendall Brewer, look at the hail we had here in central Illinois. Baseball-sized hail falling out of a storm a couple of days ago. Take you over to parts of Pennsylvania. Incredible video here of a tornado that was in Pennsylvania, uprooting trees, throwing a lot of debris around. Just a crazy video to see right here. And then, of course, we had this massive and powerful, now ranked as an EF4 tornado. That's 170-mile-an-hour wind from a mile-wide tornado that went through Douglas and Leavenworth County and parts of Kansas. This is very near Lawrence, Kansas. You've seen a lot of this in the news coverage. Mile-wide, track for 31 miles. Incredible, incredibly powerful tornado there. What I'm happy about, 0 deaths. 0 fatalities reported out of this one. Back in Illinois, we've had multiple squall lines that produce beautiful shelf clouds like this. Thank you, Caleb, for sending me this incredible picture here. Back in Ohio, look at this supercell thunderstorm here. Really well-defined hook echo on the backside with a debris core and hail. This one moving north of Dayton, doing a lot of damage as well. And by the way, even New York City got in on the action. That's right, back on May 28th, a tornado warning for New York City. This pattern has been just relentless. And in the midsection of the country, we are flooding. The flooding is awful. We have over 600 gauges in flood stage. And at the same time I'm talking about flooding, we have some places that are desperate for rainfall. I'll show you those in a few minutes. But I'm getting asked a lot about the comparison between right now and 1993. So here you go. In terms of the percent of normal precipitation from March 1st, 1993 through May 28th, this is what the map looks like. Now, what I want to do for you is I want to show you the exact same time period this year. Are you ready? That's the difference. These 2 years are not comparable. 2019 is substantially wetter across a much broader section of the country. But remember, in 1993, it got really, really wet in June, July, and August. And that just means that we are currently set up in a much wetter configuration in the midsection of the country than we were in a year that most remember as some of the worst flooding in U.S. history in the midsection of the country. So we're going to have to watch this longer range forecast very, very carefully. Meanwhile, while we are saturated in such a large section of North America, we have people like in the Canadian prairies, parts of North Dakota, and especially down here in the southeast, I'm talking parts of Florida, North, South Carolina, Georgia, who are desperate for rainfall. The extreme heat setting multiple records over the last 10 days, which is still hanging on in the near term, has got that section incredibly hot and dry. They would love to have some of the excess rainfall we have had in the midsection of the country. So this is just a year that the country is very split in how we're getting precipitation and temperature. All right, this is where we have to talk about. What you have on the left here is the European model next 10-day forecast, and on the right, it's the GFS. We have seen model-to-model changes. It has been jumping back and forth on who's getting the rain and who's not. Where we've had consistency, we do know that this area, especially over the next week, is going to continue to stay wet. We have been seeing things bounce around a lot in parts of Minnesota, northern Iowa, parts of the Dakotas. Things have changed for the eastern part of the Corn Belt and the Southeast. Model-to-model runs have been bouncing back and forth, and this is the latest run. And I'm just going to ask you to do this with me. To be honest, when we see this much volatility, what we have to do here is we have to watch the precipitation forecast only 3 to 5 days in advance. Yes, we'll look at what the longer range stuff is, but you're going to see these things bouncing around quite a bit. And I'm going to show you exactly what I'm talking about. I'm also going to say this. The GFS has been, with time, kind of defaulting back to what the European has been saying all along. So that's why I tend to feature the European more over the GFS. What are we looking at in terms of precipitation anomalies over the next 15 days? So again, this is differences from normal. We're looking at both the GFS ensemble on the left and the European ensemble on the right. Well, they're both in agreement that there's going to be a section riding through here that is wet. What is different? Well, look at how the European model expands from the Canadian prairies all the way down to that region I just circled there as having a drier bias, whereas the U.S. model is not picking up on that. They're seeing some precip coming through the Dakotas, which some folks in the Dakotas, especially North Dakota, want, and they're picking up some more precip moving through parts of Minnesota and Iowa. The European model's not seeing that. Look at the differences over the southeast. Very hot and dry for the European model. But the GFS, but the European model, look over here, doesn't have the same bias. And a really tricky region to forecast is the Eastern Corn Belt, because we could be seeing a drier time period coming in after the rain that's coming through in the next couple of days. The European model tries to keep the Ohio River Valley a little wet, but the GFS tries to keep it dry. So I'm just telling you, this is a very tough forecast. They do agree on the Pacific Northwest, though, keeping parts of Oregon and Washington dry. So we do have some agreement out there, but this is a very tricky forecast moving forward. What about temperatures? Where's the agreement? GFS on the left, warm there. Hey, Europeans got the same wedge. So with that ridge that's coming in, Canadian prairies warm, Pacific Northwest warm. But with the trough that's developing here south of the Hudson and the trough that's still in place over the southwest, the European model is much cooler. That's over there on the right. We also see both models are in pretty good agreement that the next 5 days, that's what the maps you're looking at here, keep the southeast warm. What about days 6 through 10? Well, we start to see a broader trough moving in here to the west. They both agree on the cooling in that area. We will see in parts of the central Canadian prairies and also north central plains warmth. Both models are there. But this corridor here is cooler in the Euro, warmer in the GFS, and that's because of a difference in the amplitude of the ridge in the middle section of the country between the GFS and the Euro. Still warm over the southeast. So these differences they may appear subtle, but they're substantial in terms of precip. So let's talk about precipitation. Starting you off early in the morning on Thursday here, a lot of widespread rain through parts of Wisconsin and Illinois. This is moving in this direction, moving through parts of Michigan, but certainly Indiana and Ohio. We see storms stretching back through parts of Missouri and all the way back into parts of Texas. We can see early morning thunderstorm activity in those areas here by looking at some of the lightning going on right now. Okay, but what about severe weather? Well, in the day on Thursday, we're going to watch for widely scattered showers and thunderstorms moving through parts of the Eastern Corn Belt over toward the Northeast and parts of the Mid-Atlantic. Then we're going to see a resurgence of storms coming back into parts of Texas, and then widely scattered stuff coming through parts of the Corn Belt and the Intermountain West. But look at this. This is for Friday up here. I put an F on it. A map from SPC that finally has no slight risk. In fact, we're just going to watch this region up into parts of Minnesota, Wisconsin, and parts of Michigan, and then right over here as we get into parts of the Carolinas on Friday. Saturday, we'll show it in a few minutes. It's just this little corridor right in through here in parts of Illinois, Missouri, and Kansas. So this is the calming down of this pattern. But in the near term, what are we watching? You're going to see widely scattered showers and storms move through this corridor and up to the northeast. Some on the backside still lingering. Watch later in the day. This is our short-range model, but later in the day here in parts of Texas and wide scattered showers and storms out west. So let me take those drawings off there and play this for you. This is, again, starting off 6 a.m., getting you through middle of the day on Friday. We can just watch this again for the showers and storms moving through the northeast. Some could be severe. We're going to be watching for some showers and storms moving through on Friday through parts of the Eastern Corn Belt, through Indiana and Ohio there. And then watch again Thursday afternoon, evening. Main severe weather event will be in Texas and Oklahoma. But look back there into parts of the west, getting up into Montana, parts of even Idaho, Northern California, and Oregon. Widely scattered showers and thunderstorms, okay? So this is the final evolution of this very active pattern we've been seeing. Okay. From there, I want to just do this very quickly because we're going to transition now to what's coming in the longer term. I want to compare the most recent Junes, like 2018 and 2017, the one you're about to see. Now, June 2018 featured very warm overnight low temperatures in the midsection of the country. June 2018, because of the position of this ridge, featured a drier pattern that started off in the panhandles of Oklahoma, Texas, and Kansas, and migrated to eastern Kansas and Missouri, while squall line after squall line after squall line raced through the north central plains through the Midwest just like this. That's what 2018 gave us. Very warm overnight lows, a migrating drought into parts of Missouri and Kansas, and a very wet corn belt. Well, what about 2017? Well, it was being remembered for the extreme heat out west. We were setting records in the desert southwest, temperatures climbing up to the upper 120s, lower 130s, while the southeast to southern states were quite cool. It was a drier overall pattern, but we weren't hurting for precipitation given what spring gave us, especially in this section of the country. Now, why I bring that up is, check out the animation of the height field, the 500 millibar height field for troughs and ridges as we progress into the beginning of June. It looks nothing like that. In fact, it's trying to favor with time maybe a slight trough out west, a ridge building somewhere in the Rocky Mountains, and then a broader trough that might set itself up here south of the Hudson Bay. And this is linked to something I want to watch very carefully, which is a big Scandinavian ridge. So our pattern in June of this year doesn't look anything like what we've seen in the last couple of years. And as we even bring this out to the middle of June, so this is June 14th through the 21st, we still see something like this. And what does that mean in terms of precipitation? It is not dry, but it will not be as wet as we have been. We are getting rid of that big giant ridge over the southeast, at least in the near term, okay? So with that shift in the pattern, I'm telling you, it's not as though it's super dry, but it is not a wet pattern like we've been seeing. So let's bring it back, talk about the next few days here, okay? Next 10 days, remember, we are in agreement about this being a very, very wet place. But the question I'm trying to answer is, what about this area and what about here? Okay, that's our main focus in this video is what about those regions, okay? So let's take a look at the European model, latest we have available to us early in the morning on Thursday. Remember, we already talked about the storms here, and curling up into parts of Illinois, Wisconsin, and Michigan. These are moving east first. So let's get those drawings off there and show you the progression. Ready? There we go. So what do we see? We see the storms moving east in the day on Thursday, so the Ohio River Valley. Wet day on Thursday, getting into Pennsylvania, parts of New York. Severe weather threat is on that side. On the back side here, widely scattered showers and storms, and that stretches all the way down through Kentucky, Tennessee, widely scattered into Louisiana. Okay, so that's our near term. That gets us through Friday morning right there. In the morning on Friday, we are watching still for some widely scattered showers through parts of the eastern Corn Belt here. And that moves toward Tennessee, Kentucky, well, eastern Tennessee, Kentucky, and then eventually on Friday into Virginia, West Virginia, and coastal Carolina. So this is our severe weather threat on Friday. Meanwhile, much of the backside of this, we're not watching too much widespread heavy rainfall. Now, we will see in the day on Saturday, so this is Saturday morning, storms spreading from eastern parts of South Dakota through Minnesota, northern Iowa, Wisconsin. And then Saturday throughout the day and evening, that gets into this section, which is where we're going to be watching for some stronger thunderstorms right in through here. Eastern Corn Belt into the northeast, widely scattered showers. So I know we're doing some detail here, but let's just see how things evolve. Now watch this. In the day on Sunday, as the storms progress to the northeast, look at the higher pressure that's moving in early next week into parts of the Great Lakes states. See it right there? If that comes in, this is why in my long-range video yesterday I said this 4 to 7 day forecast time period is trying to dry out this region. We could have some drier weather here while the central plains still deal with quite a bit of precipitation. So see it Monday into Tuesday, into Wednesday, you see the same area dealing with higher pressure, whereas on the back side of it, well, we're going to watch this area for potentially getting more precip. I don't want to see that. This is the place we're already flooded, right? So eastern Corn Belt, you may, once you get past this weekend, have several days next week where we try to dry out a bit. But as you see, as we get into Wednesday and Thursday, and we're just going to lose all forecast accuracy at this point, we do start to sweep through broader area precipitation here. So what am I trying to tell you? You're going to have to watch this day by day because a pattern like this is hard to forecast more than just a couple of days out in advance. Again, I'm going to come back to the same thing I've been saying. This pattern is technically drier than what we've been seeing, but it's not a dry pattern overall. Planting windows will open up, and I do see them opening up in a little corridor right in through here with time. But it's going to be middle of June. I'm in the middle of June, but the middle of the first week of June. And that just is too late to do anything, okay? Now, if you think you're feeling lonely here in the United States with all the severe weather, I can at least take you to parts of Europe. This was in Romania just the other day. A massive hailstorm there ripping through the trees, destroying cars. If we talk about Europe, over the next 5 days, continue to keep things cool here, but look at the parts of the Russian wheat belt. Look at parts of Ukraine here. This region right in through there, very warm in the coming days. Also drier than average. Where is it wet? We're talking still the same quarter where it's going to be cool right in through there. So that's what we're watching in parts of Europe. I will be spending a lot of time over the weekend learning about the impacts of the development of a Scandinavian ridge and what it is, what it means in terms of possibly impacting the position of this trough feature here over the kind of the eastern part of North America as we progress through the month of June. That will be something I'm going to watch very, very carefully. So that means that the cooler pattern that we're seeing in parts of Europe may go back hot and dry if we see that Scandinavian ridge developing. Also, just to give you another update, this region in China, remember we watch a lot of crops growing there, and that part of China continues to stay hot and very dry as we progress through the weekend and next week. And India scorched, but they're used to triple-digit heat this time of year, and the monsoon is nowhere near starting just yet. It may start to be moving through parts of the southern part of India as we get into the month of June here, but overall, this is still a hot and dry time period. I'm going to finish with a map showing you the last 30 days of global precipitation anomalies, just to tell you that much of Europe and the Russian wheat belt has been wet up to this point, as has those regions in China that I just discussed. But out of South America, even though you see this drier stripe in through here, remember that they have we're getting reports of a phenomenal safrinha crop out of that area. So with that, I'm going to wrap up this forecast video. I want to thank you for watching. Hope you look forward to all of our forecast videos that come out every day at my.nutrienagsolutions.com. Have a great week, and we will talk to you again soon. Thank you.